Hoy me acompaña Harlan Coben, que es el autor de El Inocente, la novela en la que está basada la nueva serie original de Netflix. So, Mr. Coben, it's really great to have you here. First of all, I wanted to ask you, you are an executive producer on the show, so I wanted to know what has been your role throughout the process.
I work closely with Oriol Paulo, mostly on creating the series and writing by the ideas. Of course, I wrote the novel. So we had a number from the very beginning. Oriol flew over to New York, and we met right here, right upstairs here for the first time. And he told me his ideas for what the show was. Actively involved, I think, in helping rewrite some of the episodes and the edits. And this has really been Oriol's baby. Other than that, this is a world he's created. He managed to find us a dream cast. I had known Oriol's work before, and when we first met, I remember saying to him, "Oh my God, it'd be great if we can get, we had Mario Casas in the Invisible Guest. If we get Mario." He's like, "I got it. Mario wants to do it." I'm like, "Oh, and how about if we get all of a sudden Jose Coronado and Anna Wegner, all three of the people who I loved in that movie." Ended up being on the show. I'm often involved in helping with the casting, but here it wasn't an issue at all. Oriol has so many contacts and is so well loved and respected by people in Spain that it was no issue to get the dream cast that we wanted.
And when you had that meeting with Oriol in New York, what impressed you or what convinced you the most about his take on the adaptation?
Well, first, I was already half taken because I had seen all of his movies and really loved them. And there's very few people who like twists and turns as much as I do. And Oriol's one of them. I remember even before I met him when I watched The Invisible Guest, and I said, wow, this guy's as crazy about twists as I am. So we were already simpaticos. We had very much a shared vision. And we were like two kids discussing the ideas and wanting that. I think one of the things that really impressed me right away is he had this idea for narrative device. I don't know how many, if you've seen any of the episodes yet, but each episode opening. Okay, so each episode opening with another character's viewpoint, telling you a little bit of the story. And I love this idea that it wasn't just Matt's story, that it was also Lorena's story and Olivia's story and Teo's story and Emma's story and Kimmy's story. And I love that. I love that idea as a way into the story. But right from the very beginning, we really had the same vision for what this show should and could be. And it goes off. It explodes in a million different directions. The first three episodes are relatively calm to what comes. It's really a nerve-jangling experience in the best of ways.
Yeah, and you were talking about showing the characters maybe in a different light or in a different way. I also read the novel recently, and it's impressive that they are the same characters in another setting, presented in another way, but they are the same characters that they were 16 years ago. Do you think that they have aged well since you wrote them to this day?
Yes, I think that's part of the beauty of doing these sort of TV shows that I'm able to do with Netflix. In a novel, it's all me. I'm writer, director, actor, producer, everything. And now you're working with really talented, creative people who will take the characters and make them their own while keeping the core. So as you say, when you read the book, you see Matt. But of course, now we're seeing it in the series through the eyes of the collaboration of both Mario Casas and Oriol Paulo. And that's really, it ends up being kind of fun and exciting. I actually think of the adaptations, this one's probably the closest in many ways to the novel, though we have some changes for you at the end. But always to play with the people who think that they know how it's going to end. But he really did manage to one of the hard things in the book is I can, in a book, go into so many different viewpoints. And how do you do that? In a TV series, it's harder. Normally, you stay with just the hero. So probably when you watch episode 1 of this show, you think it's all going to be on Matt and Mario Casas, and it's not. And I think one of the things that really impressed me was how Oriol found a way to give each actor their own story, their own arc, their own whole entire experience, not just our lead.
And about those changes that you were talking about, I'm not going to ask you specifically about what are they, because I don't want to spoil anything. But when you were working with Oriol, did you encourage him to go beyond the novel?
I always do. I believe that the best adaptations are not slavishly devoted to the book. I think that the worst adaptations do that, where they just worry about being true to the book. I told him, I don't care if you're true to the book. I want this to be a great show. If it means being true to the book, be true. If it means having to change things, let's change them. And everybody that I've worked with, and I think Oriol found the same experience, knows that I'm really, really open about making the changes. And I encourage a lot of them, ones that have been made on The Stranger, for example, were made by me. So in this case, Oriol, who's a wonderful creator in his own right, had a lot of different ideas that we discussed and went back and forth with. And there was even a time that I wanted to change something more from the book, I think, than he did. So it was a really interesting team effort.
And did you already have any changes in mind? I mean, when Oriol told you that he wanted to adapt the book, did you think, oh, then if there's going to be an adaptation, there's going to be another retelling of this story, I can change that, or I can get rid of this and implement this?
Not yes and no. I mean, I didn't think about it before I met with him. In fact, I hadn't reread the book. The book's 15 years old, and I don't reread my own books. So until we discussed that we were going to try to make this one, and I remembered the story, but I didn't go back and reread. As I started to reread the book, I was thinking in my head, oh, maybe we could change this, maybe we can change that, but certainly not before that. And a lot of it was based off the conversations that I had with Oriol even before I read it. And of course, changing it to being in Spain, when you change the setting, right, the characters are still very much the same, but you now add a Spanish sensibility, Spanish culture, a Spanish tradition that I think will makes the adaptation something better than it would be otherwise.
What does that Spanish sensibility add to the already complex and rich story that you wrote 15 years ago?
Well, it's just the setting. I mean, now we're in the book, we were mostly in New York, New Jersey, with Vegas and Nevada as part of it. Now we're in Barcelona with Marbella and the Malaga area a little bit involved. The cultures of bringing over, some of the women from South America as well that were working, or forced to work in the club. So all that just makes, the changes are much more subtle. It's not like I can say, oh, well, in America we would do it this way, and in Spain you do it that way. But it's just obviously with where you're set, where the world is going to bring about changes. And I think that in Oriol's case, it really makes the series a little more visual, a little more edgy, a little more surprising. I think as the series goes on, I hope you've enjoyed the first 3 episodes. It gets more and more intense. It does not let up. This is not a series that gives you a few minutes to sit back, relax, and catch your breath. It gets even more so. I've seen it a million times, the show, but I wanted to check out the dubbing. I hate dubbing, like most people, but I wanted to see if the dubbing they had done well, which I will say they did well, but it's still dubbing. But I wanted to see it. So my wife had not seen it, and my wife's normally a fairly calm watcher, and she knows the stories. And she actually screamed out loud at the twist at the end of episode 5. And I could see, it was fun watching the reaction of even somebody who's seen all of my adaptations, obviously, and is fairly calm and blasé about them, but she really kind of got lost in this one.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Coben. I really enjoyed the first 3 episodes, and I want to see all those twists and new twists that they're going to be at the ending. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Alejandro. Nice to talk to you.